Hey, what's up, folks? Welcome to another Sunday night live stream. I'm lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers, joined by the phenom, lifetime Longhorn CJ Vogel, and joined by the estimable Jerry Hamilton as well. What's going on, gentlemen? How y'all doing? We got so much football to discuss. It's a beautiful thing. It's been a while, Jerry. How you doing, brother?
Well, I was a little bored. Obviously, started practice. It was good. It was fun, but I was still a little bored. And then the Michigan news hit today, and suddenly I'm not bored anymore.
Ooh, yeah, that's we'll get into that. Yes, we will. Actually, two of Texas' opponents had NCAA yes, I'll say the subject of NCAA investigations recently. So we'll get into that. Kentucky and Michigan. We'll talk about that because I know that's a big topic of conversation. CJ, how you doing, brother? How's everything going with you?
Good, man. I'm excited to get out to practice tomorrow for the first time this year. Glad to be back down in Austin. It was a crazy rainstorm down here earlier this afternoon, Rob. I don't know if you got hit by it at all,
Yeah,
but there's some lightning right outside the apartment that I'm at. So we were, kind of dodging bolts and preparing for the week ahead, but also little Dragons later tonight, season finale. So I'm getting excited for that too.
Yeah, you know what? I'm about 2 episodes behind because I've been busy. Wife has been busy. So, and it's one of those shows we watch together. If I watch it without her, she's like, I'm cheating on her in terms of my entertainment options. So I can't do that. But I'm excited for you, everybody who's watching House of the Dragon. All right, I appreciate my man CJ as well because we're going to talk about a couple of things. Speaking of practice, we'll talk about them putting the pads on this week at practice. At some point, they're going to put the pads on this week. That'll be great. We'll get into that and what that means. Thank you guys for joining us. Appreciate all the comments. I know you guys are excited. We're excited too. Thank you guys for your participation. So any questions or comments, we'll address those, as many of them as we can. Shout out to my man CB. Always good to see you, CB, in the chat. Also, in addition to the Michigan news and Texas practice reports, we'll dive into I want to get you guys' thoughts about a couple of things that are Texas related, not necessarily Texas football practice related, but they're Texas sports related topics. But the Olympics are going on right now, and you got to give some props to the University of Texas and what they've accomplished in the Olympics too, man. I know, man, CJ's been watching the Olympics. Sometimes I think CJ watches every sport there is. There's not a sport on that CJ's not commenting on and talking about. So, CJ, I give you some props, man. Your sports palette is so diverse.
Really we only get this once a week. You get to the opportunity to bet on these crazy events once every 4 years. So I got to take advantage of it, and we're doing it today. I mean, ping pong's been a blast. Dressage, didn't know much about that before this week, but consider me a fan. The way those horses are just kind of strutting around. All right, I'm in.
CJ, I'm telling you, follow CJ on Twitter, man. It's a wild ride to your sports interest. It ain't just Texas football. All right, let's get into some of the practice stuff here, guys. What do you believe is the most compelling practice nuggets early on? And then, by the way, there's some practice reports over at the website. Go check it out on TexasFootball.com. That may be the most impactful, that could foreshadow the most about the season. Obviously, we only had a few practices to talk about. Haven't even put the pads on yet. Was there anything specifically that you guys have really kind of latched on to that you believe could foreshadow a good, maybe even some bad things that you've seen early on here in practice?
Well, I put it out on Texas Football Saturday before the practice that one thing I was told was Silas Bolden. You think about the quickness, the speed, the pass catching ability, the ability after the catch. But I was told he may be the most physical blocker. And that doesn't mean he's the best because he's 5'8", 160, Broad.
Wow.
But I was told the most physical blocker, most willing blocker, the guy that absolutely wants to stick his nose in there every single time. Wow. And I'm not sure that's what I was expecting to hear necessarily. It shouldn't surprise us because he's fearless.
Yep.
But being fearless and throwing your 5'8", 160 out there all the time is a little different. But I kind of matches up with the way he plays. He does play without fear. And it's hard to be a fearless guy in the punt return game and then turn around and suddenly not want to have physicality blocking. It doesn't really work that way, right, Rod? So,
yeah.
We've asked the TCU game, the play that Jordan Whittington made, the straight-up hustle play that saved momentum in that game. Who could make that play this year? I mean, is Silas Bolden going to be that guy to do something outside of what you think he would do? Maybe. But when I was told that, I was also told he will play in the NFL. Pretty point-blank statement.
I agree. It's uncanny. I agree with you because looking at him, and it's a bit to me shocking almost. You're taken aback by how small he is. You're like, man,
Right.
dude, little small dude. I almost wonder how it's going to translate. And then you watch him and he passes the eye test. And for a small guy, diminutive, we talked about this, CJ. He's got a really keen sense to basically make great contested catches, like in situations where he and the DB are fighting for the football. Small guys usually don't have that. And his catch radius for a small dude is also large. That's also something that it's like watching Spud Webb dunk at times. It's like, well, that don't really make sense, but there's some freaky guys that can do that kind of stuff. I see it. I'm a believer now. Even when I actually interviewed him during Longhorn originally, I thought to myself, man, I got to see this guy play football against, high level competition, SEC, the highest levels of competition. I do believe it translates. And the physicality, that doesn't shock me, Jerry, because it kind of reminds me of Quandre. Quandre had a physicality that didn't match his form.
Yeah.
Some guys' physicality doesn't match their form. Trust me, I said, I've seen him. I'm like, man, it's weird, freaky like that, where he's a small guy. But Nathan Vasher was like that. Nathan Vasher was extremely physical for a smaller. I'm a smaller guy, so I know this. I'm not that physical for a small guy. I get the job done. Nobody ever said Robbie made a big hit. I made tackles. I got to the ground. There's some pictures of me. You can see them. They even got them up there of Robbie just draped over dudes. I'm just like,
you look like Jeff Van Gundy. Holding on to whose leg was that? Alonzo Mourning?
Yeah, seriously, there are some pictures of me. I was like, man, but I'm holding on. I'm like, I got him, guys. Come on. I just need y'all to make the tackle. I'm not trying to make a spectacular hit, but some guys, they're physical like that. And I wonder, CJ, if that's just Silas Bowden's nature as a player.
Yeah, I mean, you watch the tape of him and some of the highlights at Oregon State, and he certainly played larger than his frame would appear, right? And I'm talking in the sense of contested catches down the field, the vertical threats down the field. Some of those catches that he was able to haul in, that's not what you would expect a 5'8", 5'9" body to be able to do. And that's why it was so impressive. I like the, kind of that analogy of Spud Webb dunking, right? It's little man doing big man things. And that's kind of what we've seen so far from Silas Bolden. My big takeaway so far from the first week of practice is the two kind of headliners of this 2024 freshman class are making big time splashy, kind of highlights in practice so far. That's Ryan Wingo, of course, and that's obviously Colin Simmons on the defensive side. Both of those guys have been singled out to me in this past 48 hours of practice returns and reviews as guys that have been making a lot of plays and, turning heads early on. We knew that was
continuing on from the spring. Continuing on from their spring is the big thing, right? No, yes, you're not hearing any different things with them, I think is a big thing.
Yeah. So far it's only been 3 or 4 sessions so far. Yeah. You've not seen that freshman wall come into play that you've seen at times, 3 or 4 weeks in a spring ball for those guys. And then obviously carrying in the momentum into fall camp, very important. You're going to see these guys on the field very often, in my opinion.
Good stuff there, guys. All right, I know we got some questions here. We'll get to those here in just a second. We do have a couple of super chats early to get to. Super chats, remember, they can interrupt the show at any time. Jump to the front of the line. UT Boy is back. Hey, UT Boy. La Familia. Appreciate you. Hey, good to have you back, man. It's been a couple of live streams since I've seen UT Boy. I'm sure UT Boy's got a job. I'm sure he's got responsibilities in the family. Can't always just be on here with us, but we appreciate when he is.
This next super chat's a big one for Texas.
Jeff Carey, super chat. Thank you very much, Jeff. We appreciate your kindness there. Can you discuss the swim transfer, Leon Marchand? Guys, you got knowledge on this, Jerry? You're excited.
Oh man, I mean, that's a huge deal for the University of Texas. He's 4 for 4 gold medals in Paris. Wow. Coach Bowman coached Michael Phelps. He says Leon Marchand is the best swimmer underwater, has the best moves underwater of anybody he's ever coached in his life. He coached Michael Phelps.
Wow.
That is as high praise as it gets. And Leon Marchand instantly becomes, I think, the most high-profile athlete at the University of Texas. I mean, 4 for 4 in gold medals.
Whoa. Yeah, I mean, that's a lot. I will say, okay, Internationally, that is the case. You're right.
Yes.
About that.
Yes.
Internationally, you're talking about gold medals there. No, it's a good point. I'm just looking at his resume here for the 2024 Paris Olympics. Gold in the 200-meter breaststroke, gold in the 200-meter butterfly, gold in the 200-meter medley, and gold in the 400-meter medley. Yeah, he's a dude.
And talked about the way that he did it. 4 straight Olympic records as well. So it's not like he's squeaking by in a bad field. No, he's setting records for the Olympic Games. He's the best swimmer in the world at the moment, and it's not close.
Look, I mean, he's 1.1 million Instagram followers right now. I mean, he's profile around the world. He's the one now.
He he gave a pretty good quote after his 4th gold, and they're sitting there saying, you came out there, you obliterated the Olympic record. What went into this race? He said, well, I've won 3 other gold already. I'm pretty comfortable now. Nerves aren't really a thing anymore.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Man, that is big time. Thank you, Jeff, for that. That is super chat. We appreciate that. Speaking of the Olympics, might as well just pick it up there. I believe now, as the last time I checked, got it from John Bianco, but I'm sure obviously Olympics are ongoing. So you guys let me know if something happened. The University of Texas now with 12 total medals. With 4 lifetime Longhorns who obviously participated in sports here at the University of Texas, also went on to compete in the Olympics. And you got 12 medals total, 4 golds, 5 silvers. There are 3 bronze in that group. Shout out to Julian Alfred, who basically was the first ever Olympic medalist for her country. Ended up winning the gold for the 100 meters for the women.
Out of St. Lucia, that's awesome. Yeah,
that is amazing, actually. What is it? Think about how, man, what does that mean if in your country you think about you're the first ever Olympic medalist? I mean, talk about being just cemented as a legend. She's gonna have a statue there. That's statue stuff.
It's crazy. The population of Austin's about 5.5 to 6 times larger than the city or the country of St. Lucia, and they have the fastest woman in the world. How about that?
So we have some people in this chat saying Marshawn's he's turning pro. He's going to train in Austin with Bowman. That makes more sense to me. Okay. I hadn't seen like a tweet or anything where he was in the portal and coming to Austin. People are saying he's just going to train in Austin.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Be training at the University of Texas, essentially.
Yeah, because he's 22, right? Yeah, he's like 22.
He technically has a year left, but he just turned pro.
So basically, Arch Manning is still the most high-profile athlete.
Well,
now for boy Quinn.
I mean,
Quinn does have a Hulu commercial.
Yes,
he's got a new Hulu commercial, which is pretty nice. I ain't gonna lie, I thought his acting was pretty good. It was not cheesy. It was pretty good. Well, I mean, he's probably done a couple of commercials now at this point.
Hey, by the way, on Julian Alfred, man, I thought that was Jarrett Gibson running the 100. Man, she is rocked up. She looks like a running back. Does she not look like doesn't she look like she could rush for 1,000 yards in high school football to you, Rod?
Or go on the outside and run some 9 routes and some 6 routes. as one of those Sark type receivers, small but fast, speed demons. Yeah, one of those.
She is really solid. I mean, she looks like a high school running back build.
She's impressive. No, in many ways. Scotty Scheffler also got to give him props. I mean,
that was big.
This guy this is ridiculous. The run he's on right now.
The way in which he did it too. What was it? 9 under, 10 under today in a final round to come back. 4 strokes down, 4 holes to go. Birdies all of them. I mean, it's unreal what he was able to do. I had him pre-tournament, so credit to me as well. Thank you. But no, he's incredible. What he's done this year has been nothing short of remarkable.
Here's the question, because I posed this to Bobby earlier. Is he now number 1 on the Highland Park pantheon, or I guess the whatever you want to call it? Okay. Here's your Highland Park, some of your top Highland Park athletes, the Mount Rushmore, on top of the Mount Rushmore.
Okay, go.
Okay, Clayton Kershaw.
Oh.
Bobby Lane. Okay. There's Scheffler, Matthew Stafford, Doak Walker.
Wow.
People say Stafford, I think, because of football, but I'm here to tell you, Scotty Scheffler's won 2 Masters. He's now a gold medalist. He is already a World Golf Hall of Fame player. He is gonna, if he just has a healthy 6, 8, 9 years, he'll be a top 10 pro golfer of all time.
He's got to get an award named after him first, Sherry. Get that Doak Walker Award.
Yeah. So
That's
Doak
where I'm drawing the
there.
line there.
Doak's on there for sure. And then you got Bobby Lane. I mean, come on, now Bobby Lane's definitely on there. He's a Hall of Famer. And yeah.
Matt Stafford, Clayton Kershaw, but I think Scheffler's on his way to.
I think I'm with you. I think Scheffler's on there. Damn, that's pretty good. That's that's a good game to play with your high school. Do your high school Mount Rushmore in athletics. Do you even have how many Hall of Famers you got on there? They got a couple of them. That's pretty impressive. Okay, real quick, because we were talking about the Olympics, so wrap up that discussion, and we'll get back to some football here. You also had the how about this little Ryan Krauser is his name? He's from Texas, 3-time gold medalist now in 3 consecutive Olympics with the shot put. So I just want to throw that out there too. He deserves
greatest shot putter in history.
Boom, there you go. Speaking of Mount Rushmores.
Yes. No, he's number one. Yeah. Out of Oregon, out of the Portland area. And he was, I think he came through Austin at a time when they were struggling on the offensive line, but he didn't want any part of that.
Dude, I think he would have held his own. I mean, he's got to get the center of gravity pretty low.
He's 6'7", 320 and has 6'7", 290 since he was 16.
Good Lord. That's genetics. I want to see his family. I bet it's speaking of like Game of Thrones. Reminds me of like the mountain back in the day. All right, there you go. Enough Olympics discussion. University of Texas doing really well. 12 total medals. By the way, that's more than like Germany and Hungary, like countries like New Zealand and Sweden and Brazil. It's really, really impressive by the University of Texas. All right, before we get into this Michigan story, because it's a doozy. Let's thank one of our sponsors. Let's thank our good friends over at South Point Dodge. Really excited about having our friends over at South Point Dodge as a part of the On Texas football family. Trust me, folks, they're great. You want to go over there and check it out for yourself. You can, if you're a Texas football fan and you're looking for a new car, it's a great way to get to the point. You can score an easy point this season when you get to the point at South Point Dodge. South Point Dodge has over 600 vehicles in stock right now, including a great selection of Ram 1500s, 2500s, and 3500s. Whatever your truck needs, South Point Dodge is your one-stop shop. Also, speaking of trucks, they have a great special going on right now. You can shop over 50 Ram 2500s right now, all marked down with huge savings over at South Point Dodge. South Point Dodge is Austin's automotive everything. Go check it out for yourself today. You can go in person off I-35 in South Austin, or you can go check it out online at southpointdodge.com and go check out their great selection there. Austin's automotive everything. Get to the point at South Point Dodge. We appreciate them. And they have signed on for football season. So we'll be partnering with South Point Dodge going forward. Really excited about our partnership with them and them being a part of the On Texas football family. SouthPointDodge.com. Go check it out for yourself. Okay, gentlemen, let's get to this Michigan story. Do we have a question here in the chat related? Here's Sandman23. Thank you very much. Sandman23 says, legit wondering if Coach Moore will even be on the sidelines when Texas pulls up to Ann Arbor. Can't make this stuff up. No, you can't. That's why I can't wait to watch this documentary. Is it on Netflix, CJ? Where's Sharon Moore? Is it Netflix documentary, correct? That they're gonna do?
I believe so.
Yeah. Oh man, I can't wait. It's coming right before football season. I believe like 4 or 5 days before the first week of football season. But for those who haven't heard, there you go. Thank you very much, Matthew, for putting it up there. First year Michigan head coach Sharon Moore, who was elevated to the head coaching role following the offseason departure of Jim Harbaugh, is one of the 7 Michigan coaches from the 2023 staff accused of violating NCAA rules. A draft of the notice of allegations was obtained by ESPN and other outlets. Reportedly states that Moore could face a show cause penalty and face a possible suspension for allegedly deleting over 50 texts with former Wolverine staffers Connor Stallions. Man, that name is just a great name. And it's a great name for something shady going. It's a great shady name. Connor Stallions. Back in October of 2023. Also, it says those texts were reportedly later recovered and Moore later provided them to NCAA enforcement, but the violation would be a second for new Wolverines head coach as he has previously contacted recruits during a COVID-19 dead period before negotiating a resolution, and he served a 1-game suspension to open last season. Okay. All right, gentlemen. So here we go. What are your thoughts about it? Texas could have a Michigan team without their first-year head coach, Sharon Moore, if the NCAA levies a heavy punishment on them.
Yeah. Will anything happen in the next 34 days or the 27 days before the start of the season for Michigan? That's the question. Look, what did Harbaugh get? 4-game suspension last year?
Yep.
It'll be very interesting to see if the NCAA moves quickly. If Sharon Moore's is the actual head coach at Michigan, or if he's a suspended head coach. The other thing was Connor Stallions was on the sidelines of the Central Michigan game.
Yes.
If there was any doubt, if anybody thought that was the luckiest coincidence looking guy of all time, no, it was not. But how many level 1 violations? 4 or 5? I can't.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'll check this here, but you're right. Multiple. That's for sure. Yeah.
And here's the thing. Look, I know some people like the NCAA's feckless, whatever. Are they going to get this title vacated? I mean, they can still hang their banner and celebrate. But I kind of wonder in the future if Michigan doesn't have this vacated by the NCAA.
That'll be interesting.
Louisville,
also be interesting is
Louisville did after the Adidas stuff, right? Basketball vacated. There's been some others that have had their titles or wins vacated. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. But the big question for all of us is Sharon Moore actually going to be the head coach of Michigan for that game, or is there going to be an acting head coach?
That'll be interesting. It'll also be interesting if they try to roll the dice again and go full Bobby Valentine once more to have Sharon Moore just around the stadium, right? You know, who knows? I'm sure they won't be tiptoeing it that much given the circumstances and what's expected to be dropped, via the NCAA. But I don't know. It's something that if you're Michigan, would you rather have Coach Moore suspended early in the year or have this drag on, potentially not have him against Ohio State later on? You kind of pick your poison there with the way their two largest games are, one at the very beginning of the season and one at the very end. If this drags on longer, I think, that bodes pretty poorly for his chance to be coaching against Ohio State in a game that's going to be, as heavily anticipated from Ohio State's side of things. To not have your head coach then would be pretty upsetting, I would say.
It's a great point. And does Michigan, do they self-impose to try to get ahead of it and be proactive?
That could also be the case.
Do they just to say, all right, we know he's going, because he's a repeat violator now, right? Not with level 1 violation, but a repeat violator. If that's the case, probably going to have something. And I'm with you, CJ. I wonder if you're Michigan, maybe you can be proactive and pretty much determine what game he's going to be suspended for. Of course, you got to do it early. And will that be the University of Texas? That is the question. To your point, though, Jerry, I can't wait in the documentary to find out how he got on the sideline. Like they've not revealed that in any of the documents that I've seen. They did reveal, yes, he wore disguise on the Central Michigan State game sideline, but they did not reveal how he got the bench pass, like how he had an inside man. He knew somebody.
Yeah.
To get there. That's what I wonder. That's
going to be interesting too. And look, it's E. Kim had just brought up a good point. More pressure on Ryan Day if he can't beat him in Michigan this year. Absolutely. But yeah, I think, look, I said back then it was the tip of the iceberg. There was more stuff with Michigan. It was just too obvious, right? So you just kind of wonder what else is out there. What else with this situation is truly out there that's been covered up or attempted to be covered up? What else may come out? I don't think we're done with what's going to come out with this.
I want to know, Jerry, what other programs might be implicated, right? We're looking at a Michigan, that was the school that was caught. They can't be the only ones that have some sort of scouting or coaches on the road to see games they're not supposed to be at, some personnel. I think it goes a little bit further, and who knows what other doors get opened because of this.
Yeah, I don't know. I would question if anybody's gone to this link before, necessarily. Maybe it wouldn't. I mean, it wouldn't shock me. But this is a different level than anything I've ever seen. This was so egregious that I don't know if they found 2, 3, 4, 5 teams that were doing this. I might be a little surprised. But the interesting thing with me too around all this is what effect does it have on the team? Because what's important for Texas is the Michigan team on September 7th.
Yeah.
What effect is this going to have on this team? That's my question. Or do these guys rally around each other, or are they going to do the opposite? Because Harbaugh's gone. Your strength and conditioning coach, who's a big part of a program, gone. So many of these staff members are gone. The insulation around it is gone. So how's this team going to respond? What are they going to do? I mean, because it does add a lot more questions, intrigue, and the possibility of splintering a team. It'll be interesting to see what this team does, because they accomplished the goal last year, insulated around this. What are they going to do this year? They achieved the goal last year. A lot of the pieces to the big puzzle are gone. How are these guys that are back going to handle this year?
I think
it will have a negative effect.
I think the defense is going to rally because they have so many good players, so many veteran players. They have Martindale coming in, veteran presence there, running the same system they ran with McDonald and Mentor. I think the defense is going to be okay. I do wonder if that offense is going to just go to kind of a downward spiral because you lost. Yeah, obviously Jim Harbaugh, he was kind of the identity of the program, period. But he's an offensive guy, and if you down Sharon Moore on the sideline, he was your offensive coordinator. And then you're gonna lose him, and then you lost all your pieces, all your most dynamic pieces on offense too, including your entire offensive line, including your quarterback. Blake Corum. I think defense is gonna be fine because defense, that sounds like a rallying cry. We need something to fight for anyway. It's good when the defense feels like the world is against us. We like that. Trust me, that's often the battle cry on defense. But on offense, the losses I think would be too much. They would compound too much.
That's a good point because where did Sharon Moore come from? Well, it was the offensive line. That's kind of where he made his name at Michigan. For them to be replacing that entire offensive line with a brand new starting quarterback as well, if that's early in the season in which he's gone, you're looking at it from a Texas perspective, saying, all right, they're not going to be firing on all cylinders that you would expect with all those new pieces. Multiple new coaches in charge of not just the offensive line, but the offense in general, the play callings, the schemes, the ideas in which they'll be, going about the philosophical approach from an offensive game plan. So if that's the case, I think you're looking at it from Texas's perspective, saying, yeah, take him out game 2. That'd be nice.
Better have a strong leadership council on this team.
Yep.
There's a lot of those guys from their last team are in the NFL now. Yep. Better have a strong group this year.
And Jerry, like I would say, the leadership council will be mostly a defense. They'll be like 80% defense, pretty much. UT Boy says Harbaugh these, boom. Yeah. Hey, you know what? Harbaugh ain't there anymore. I'm actually a fan of Harbaugh, but they still gonna be trying to play Harbaugh football. There's still a Harbaugh brand of football.
No doubt.
So that's kind of why we keep referring to Harbaugh, but we'll see. He's got problems of his own now in the NFL, in that division, in the same division with Patrick Mahomes. All right, so let's get back to it here. Sean with the super chat. Thank you very much, Sean. We appreciate the super chat. Says, as far as USA standards, this has been an underwhelming Olympics for us. How do you guys feel about athletes training here only to beat us in the Olympics? I would say underwhelming from a gold medal standpoint. I don't know where the gold medal count is now, but that's probably a little closer than folks will like it. I think last time we lost the gold medal count was 2008. I think the University of Texas, but America will always win the overall medal count because I think that's just goes to the numbers. And I think right now we're winning. Last time we lost that was, I think you got to go back to like 1988 or 1992. And that's when that was a new priority emphasis put on amateurism and putting some of our best athletes in the Olympics, and including the dream team, by the way. There's a big part of that too. I haven't kept up with it in terms of how many athletes train here and then, go over to their country, represent their country and win. I mean, you see it out in the NBA, of course. They don't necessarily win, but of course they are here professionally and then they go represent their country. So I think that's part of what makes our professional leagues great. That keeps us from dominating the Olympics even more. But I think we're pretty good. We don't dominate probably like we would like, but I still think we're going to win the gold medal count this year. And we haven't lost it, like I said, since 2008.
Yeah, I was going to say, I won't talk too long on the Olympics. We're here to talk some Texas football. But what's nice about all these outside athletes coming into the University of Texas is, one, Jerry, you mentioned Leon Marchand. I mean, that's 1.1 million followers. You know who's going to be seeing him post training at Texas, training with Bob Bowman. It's the future generation of swimmers saying, if I have the opportunity to go be coached for and swim at Texas, I'm actually going to be, I will absolutely do that, right? That's the case. It's great marketing and publicity for the University of Texas to not only have these guys training here, but to have the world's best shot putter, the fastest woman alive. It's all marketing for Texas to continue dominating in swimming and diving. On the track, we've seen that be a large success over this last couple of weeks when the Olympics started up. We heard it on the broadcast last night. This evening, and I quote, "This evening's been all about Texas Longhorn gold." That's got to be as much of a selling point you could have when it comes to swimming and diving, track and field, and all these Olympic sports as well, rowing as well.
I think my big takeaway is I love that all the athletes worldwide want to come here and train here, or compete in college level or whatnot, NBA, whatever. I love it. Pushes everybody to get better. My bottom line on that, pushes everybody to get better. Look, all these sports are worldwide sports now. That's just the reality of it. So I love it. And I love that the U.S. colleges open up opportunities for some of those young athletes to come over to the States and kind of experience something different while training, maximizing their talent. You see it at IMG. Whenever I go to IMG Academy, IMG Academy didn't start with football and basketball. Those are the last two things they had. That started as tennis, went to track and field, it went to baseball, other sports, and golf. And here's the thing. A lot of there's countries sending some of their best young athletes to IMG in their high school years. I think it's great. I love that part of it. So I think it makes all the athletes better. So I'm here for it.
Yeah. Good stuff, gentlemen. And thank you for the question in the super chat. We appreciate that, Sean. All right, let's get back to some Texas football conversation. Slick Rick wants to know. He says, I'm hearing Wingo is our best. And thank you very much, Slick Rick, for the super chat. We appreciate it. I'm hearing Wingo is our best wide receiver right now. Going to be hard not to start him. What are your thoughts, fellas? Jerry, 3.5 over under 5 stars by the end of September. All right, so I'll throw it to you, Jerry. You can answer the last part first and then go back and
yeah, I'll take the under on the 3.5, 5 stars. I'll take the under, maybe slightly under, but I'll take the under right now on that. Yeah. On Wingo, look, I think Wingo's the most talented, but that doesn't mean you're the best player on September 7th at Michigan, right? There's things there. This scheme is pre-snap, a lot of movement, a lot. Rod, you can speak to this. A lot that goes into this scheme. Ryan Wingo is without a doubt the most talented receiver in Austin, and I agree with Bobby. I think everybody does. The best, most talented receiver Texas has recruited out of high school since Roy Williams came out of Permian and showed up at Texas. But best, I'm not sure we can say that yet. Most talented, yes. I think the best part has to play out actually on the field this year because he's still a freshman. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't mean adversity hits. You could have 2 pre-snap penalties and go watch to get a quarter and a half. Well, you're not the best in that scenario. So some things still have to play out there in terms of development.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Talent-wise, there's no question watching him. I mean, he has all the raw materials, best combination of skills at the wide receiver that we have. But yeah, he still got to learn the game and learn the system. That starts. I keep throwing this out there. It came from Sports Info Solutions. The stat from the pre-draft process for A.D. Mitchell said he ran 37 unique routes as a receiver. And I'm thought to myself, how can I name 37 routes on the route tree? I probably could get to like 20 something, and then I'd really start to struggle, CJ. I really after like 20. Maybe 22, I'd really start to struggle with how many routes on their route tree. But that's just part of how sophisticated the offense is. UT Boy wants to talk more about receivers, and we know what receiver UT Boy wants to talk about. Thank you for the super chat, UT Boy. Jerry Hamilton, speak on the Jonte development, please. He looked good. I would say he looked good out there as a route runner. He's probably maybe your best precision route runner out there potentially.
So yeah, and he's worked with margin hooks 2.5 years now in the offseason, right? So he's steady progress before he got to Texas there, and Chris Jackson's continuing to fine-tune it. Look, I think his development, what we just talked about, what makes the system difficult for freshmen is now that he has a much better feel for the system, he's playing with more freedom and confidence. I think it's pretty simple with him. I think last year there was a lot on his plate, a lot to digest. It can be overwhelming even for the most talented players. So I think that learning Steve Sarkisian's system, being comfortable in that system, to where Sark says, all right, you're in the game, go get it. I think he's now in the game. Now it's his turn to try to go get it. So I think his development, obviously you always get stronger, right? You always continue to maximize your frame. He came in as a strong route runner that they've continued to refine. But now that I just see a more comfortable, confident player this year. I think that's the biggest thing for Jonte Cook is just being comfortable in the system, now going out and play with freedom.
Yeah, I think the one thing with Jonte that I was actually really encouraged to hear over the weekend, I checked in Saturday night after the Longhorns practice at DKR just to kind of get an idea of what was going on, how the practices were going. And unsolicited, the word I got on Jonte was he probably has the best release at the line of scrimmage, and we've talked about creating separation in the way that Texas likes to utilize speed to do so. Well, when you can do that in your route and in your get off, it makes your job as a wide receiver to find space that much easier. Rod, you know all about this, right? If a guy at the line, if you can't get hands on him, or if he can find a way to get a step on top of you earlier in his route, it's significantly easier for that wide receiver to find space down the field. And right now, that's what's sounding like Jonte's doing a very good job at, is finding ways to make defensive backs look kind of silly in terms of getting hands on, or kind of, keeping that 5-yard buffer there so that they can, keep hands on and, keep him from getting into his route.
Yeah, no, I agree with you on that, CJ. And one thing I also noticed just out there watching practice, and CJ, when you go out there, I'm sure you can notice it too, because Sark's very hands-on with the wide receivers. He works with them when they're doing the drills. He's telling them about the depth of the route. He's talking about how he wants them to make their breaks, angles, different things. And when go watch him after Jonte Cook runs routes, he seems pleased all the time. He's always like, he's always a positive, encouraging, pleased kind of critique by Sark. And I noticed that. And some guys, he's like, hey, he's coaching them. He's letting them know exactly what he wants. He's being very subtle in some of his critiques. But now with Jonte, I think because Jonte's been here long enough to know what's expected. Yeah. And he may be the most consistent of the route runners right now because he knows all the routes. And in terms of his chemistry, probably has better chemistry with Quinn too, just considering he's been with him. He's been with him longer than the rest of those guys.
And I would say this too. If Jonte and DeAndre Moore aren't ahead in that regard right now, then they have an issue this year. They should be ahead.
That's a great point. I agree with that. Yeah.
Just being real.
No, that would mean that's why if a younger guy that just got on campus, because now it's not just young guys, guy who just got on campus, so transfer portal guys finish this too. But right. If they are immediately on the same level as the guys who have been here on campus for 2, 3 years, who are comfortable, know the system, know the coaches, know what is expected, you can expect in terms of rate of development for them to surpass them probably, some point middle of the training camp. And that's really how it goes there. Because they shouldn't be right now. There should be a little separation. The guys who have been here, they should look more comfortable and they should be, in my opinion, more confident right now. But I don't know if that's always the place. So good point there, Jerry. All right, let's get back to some of the questions here. Hook'em Baby, thank you very much, Hook'em Baby. Question here says, who's quicker, Jonte or Bowden? She's got two of them. And Wingo is better than Worthy or in his freshman year compared to Wingo? That's a good one too.
Well,
Bowden is quicker. There's no doubt. That's not even a question, right?
Yeah. Wingo won't have the stats of Xavier Worthy because that's a different scenario situation. Xavier Worthy came in and Texas had to have him be the guy right out of the gate. He was Sark didn't have any toys to play with at the time at wide receiver position. If Brian Wingo put up Worthy stats this year, then he's just all freaking world now to change the rule to 2 years and go to the NFL because you probably aren't doing that with the receivers on this team because the ball's got to be spread around, the running backs out of the backfield. The team is so much more different now and has so many more pieces to the puzzle on offense. So is he more talented than Worthy? I would say, yeah, that as an all-around wide receiver. Is he going to have the season Worthy had? That's a stretch because of the situation. I mean, Worthy, Kelvin Banks were two guys Texas recruited that it's pretty much, look, here you are, you're going out there and you're playing this position and you're learning on the job no matter what, and we have to have you do it. The great thing about where the program is now is you can bring guys along like Wingo a little bit slower if you want to.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think Wingo all around, like I said, he is the best. He has the best combination of elite traits at wide receiver since Roy Williams. We just haven't seen that. But in terms of elite traits, that's what I'm defending as a DB. Right. I'm defending elite traits, right? I'm trying to do my best. And with Xavier Worthy, he in terms of the elite trait, he arguably maybe one of the fastest humans to ever play football. Like that's his elite trait. And then he's got some traits. I think he's built off that. But for Wingo, he doesn't have world-class speed like Xavier Worthy. I mean, that guy probably, if he just focused on running in track and field, might be in the Olympics. Like he's got that kind of freaky speed, or at least be in the Olympic trials. He's that kind of freaky speed. But Wingo's got like 3 or 4 elite tools that I have to defend. His ability, his jump ball ability, his speed, he's got that too. I love him after he catches. I think his run after the catch ability is next level. I think that's when Longhorn fans are going to be surprised how dangerous he is when he gets the ball in his hands, let alone his separation ability.
That leaping ability was on display in practice as well. He had a first down catch in which I was told looked like a 40-inch vertical, just going straight up, making the play over defender, coming down, getting a first down. That was, I was told, the most impressive play of the evening Saturday night. So sounds, when you talk about elite traits, he's got plenty of them.
Yeah.
Rod, do you have a comparison for him?
I honestly, as a player, just in terms of the skill set,
if you throw anything out, it puts unrealistic expectations.
It's tough, man. I'll admit,
I've got one, but it's a dangerous thing to throw out.
Give it to me. I would love to hear it.
I want to hear this because I had one came to my mind as well.
6'2" and a quarter, whatever he is, version of AJ Green.
Okay, I was going to say Julio Jones. So
hey, he's not as physical and big as Julio. They're different.
That's good.
For me, AJ Green. Go watch some YouTube highlights of AJ Green.
I like AJ Green a lot. Yeah.
Julio, but not the Julio was a freaking physical, total, just like physical freak show.
And specimen,
physically, when you hit him, like him and Andre Johnson were so different.
Yeah.
AJ Green, I watched a few guys. I was like, that one's interesting to me.
I like the Amari Cooper one by Rick there. Amari Cooper 2.0. That's not a bad one.
Yeah,
that's not bad. Yeah, because it is. He's not a huge, like I'm with you. He's not Andre Johnson physical specimen wise, or Julio Jones, because they're just huge. Right. But he is. I think he is. That's one of his I think elite traits is his size. I think he actually does have a perfect ideal size for.
It'll be interesting to see what he develops into. We just put too much high expectations on, but this is what makes this fun.
No, you're right. I love playing the comparison game. Thank you very much, Hook'em baby, and thank you guys for the super chat there. Orlando Rivera, thank you for the super chat. Very kind of you. How about this one? Call it battered fan syndrome, but I think Texas drops 2 games. Give me Georgia and someone else for L's, but give me OU and Texas A&M as W's. Your thoughts, gentlemen? You know what? I think I got Texas at. I think it's like 2 losses. I think that's fair. That's not that's not unrealistic there, Orlando. You're not being glass half empty guy with that. You're not.
No, I would take 10. If you told me right now 10-2, I would take 10-2 right now because you're in the college football playoff for the 2nd year in a row. You're going to be the only team that's going to say that unless Kalen DeBoer pulls a rabbit out, which he could do. He's a great coach. But if you told me 10-2 back in the college football playoff, I would take that all day. Right now, if you told me I could take it right now and be done, I'd take it. That also means we'd have a watch with us live for the first college football 12-team playoff. That'd be fun.
Yeah, nice. Which also you're probably playing that at home as well. So it'll probably be a DKR if that's the case. If you go 10-2, my thing with that, you'd be happy. 100%. I'm with you. 10-2, you take that right now because that does mean you're one of the 12 best teams come the end of the year. The thing with that week 2 game at Michigan is so important because that then sets what kind of safety net you have moving forward. Georgia, I think, is going to be a toss-up game at home. Oklahoma is going to be a toss-up game in Dallas. That means you can't fall against Florida at home. You can't fall to a Kentucky. Arkansas is going to be tough on the road. but that's a game that you should absolutely come away with a victory in. Those games in which we've seen Texas play Iowa State close to the wire, some Kansas State, some TCUs in which they weren't, competing for national championships, right? Those games in which the games are a little bit tighter than you expect from a Texas talent perspective, you can't have that slip up down the road in this SEC conference, in this slate, especially when you're facing Georgia, Alabama, Georgia, Michigan, and Oklahoma all in the same season.
Yep. No, you're right about that. That will be, that's the ultimate test, right? If you are 10-2, and the way that it was stated there by Orlando, you got the loss to Georgia. The other would be an unexpected trap game loss somehow, because he says wins against Oklahoma and Texas A&M, which I agree. If you're Texas, you don't want to. Your rivals, you can't lose that first game to A&M. The first game, rekindling the rivalry, like you can't do it, because that's just going to open up a whole can of worms. And then if you lose to Oklahoma, though, man, your record versus Oklahoma will be what at that point? But
1-3.
1-3.
1-3.
That also wouldn't be good. Longhorn fans wouldn't like that. It goes to this point here about Rick. Rick threw this out there. Can you imagine the cost of the Aggie tickets if they're both 9-2 heading into the game? I believe right now it is the highest average ticket price for any college football game coming up this season. So right now it is. And you're right. If they're both good, that's going to be the biggest game of the season potentially in college football.
Even if they're not both good, Rod, it might just be A&M's opportunity to play spoiler, Texas's chance to turn a underwhelming season into a bad season, or keep them out of the playoff as well. That's what the game is. It's so great that it's finally off of Twitter and back onto the field. But look at that, 625.
That's wild.
Buckaroos right there to get in the gate. Texas with 3 of the top 4, by the way.
That's crazy.
Top 6, 4 of the top 7. Good.
Look, the reality for this season is, and A&M's gonna have to stay healthy because Elko hadn't built the depth yet. They have a good roster. Their first 22 are really good players. If they beat Notre Dame to start the season, their schedule's pretty favorable to actually for that game to have meaning at the end of the year, unless they have a slew of injuries. I mean, it just is. If they beat Notre Dame at home, they have a schedule that can make some noise if you look at it. So, and a lot depends on, look, they have new staff. Is Connor Reedman going to stay healthy? What's that offensive line? Can they keep the quarterback healthy? But if they beat Notre Dame, who is Notre Dame's very solid this year. If they beat Notre Dame in game 1, they're going to have energy. They're going to have a lot going for them with that schedule. Then they go to Florida 2 weeks after that. So it's not out of the question if A&M beats Notre Dame that they could be rolling in 8-3 and Texas could be rolling in 9-2. And that game has a hell of a lot of meaning in that scenario. All these scenarios have to play out. I'm not saying Texas will be 9-2, but there's a scenario where that game could have a lot on the line. But but A&M's probably got to beat Notre Dame to start the season at home.
Yeah, definitely. It is funny. Hopefully all y'all stocks and investments are doing well for you to be able to finance all these ticket prices coming into the season. One game that I wasn't expecting to see on the top 10, top 8 most expensive list was Cincinnati and Colorado. What are we doing right there? $300 a pop to get into that game? All right.
Somebody said we talked about that on Coffee and Football, and we had some people in the chat that said it was like what is it, Parents Weekend at Colorado, and since it's a smaller stadium, it's jacked the prices of the tickets up.
Yeah, okay, all right, that makes sense. That's something I'm with you.
That's the only way. I mean,
there's no way, because I'm with you. That I understand Colorado, but Cincinnati, that's not necessarily something that's gonna.
The other one was the Indiana Northwestern one, but Northwestern doesn't have a stadium. So they're playing like right there on the lake up there with 15,000 fans in the stands. So their ticket prices are jacked up too this year a little bit.
Yeah, they want to see Kirk Signetti. That's right. Sig's in the crib.
The other one crazy. Here's the other crazy one. In the 90s, if we were redoing this today and we're sitting here in 1992 through 96, that FSU Florida game, Steve Spurrier rolling to Tallahassee would have been ahead of the Texas A&M game. Back then, when they were ranked top 5 in the country, and they were in the state of Florida was dominating college football. Spurrier rolls in to play Bobby Bowden. That ticket might have been $800 today.
Hey, man, one of my Final Five was Florida State. I was all about it. Hey, no doubt. All right, getting back to the Super Chat. Thank you, Jermaine, for the Super Chat. Jermaine Waller says, Wingo comparison is Traylon Burks from Arkansas. I think he's faster and quicker than Traylon Burks, though. Yeah. Traylon Burks is I feel like he got stuck in the mud sometimes, getting in and out of breaks. A little slower to me. Maybe body type, maybe because he's a bigger guy, but I think he's quicker and faster. That could be off. What are you guys' thoughts about that? I heard Traylon Burks is looking. I think he's with Tennessee. What is that? Tennessee?
Yep.
Yeah.
So. Yeah. One of the guys I threw out from a guy that I saw from doing an ESPN Under Armour game, and I've got to pull it up. Keep going. I'll pull it up because the combine stats were eerily similar to what I bet a Wingo does.
Yeah. No, the frame I think is that. I think Traylon Burks is around 6'2", 6'3", 220. 5'2", so the frame actually may be pretty close. I got to go see, but he might be a little thicker. I just think that Wingo is maybe a little slimmer, but I think he's more explosive. I should say that than Burks to me. But we'll be off about that. Thank you very much, man. We appreciate the super chat there. Yeah, I mean the truth is Wingo. I don't think Wingo is going to start early on. I think his chances starting will be in the middle of the season. And after that, because he's going to earn the trust of Sark in some of those big games, and I think he's going to get a chance in those big games. He'll be in the rotation, and he may not be denied. I mean, it may be a point where he's doing in the games what he's doing, what I'm hearing he's doing in practice. And if that's the case, then Sark's going to be like, "Hey guys, he's making plays out there. He's going to start." But I think ultimately, situationally, he could end up being a guy that you break out for certain. Maybe he is your deep threat. Maybe he is the red zone guy. In certain situations that he may be the role, he may fill that role.
Yeah. The guy I was thinking of, Josh Gordon, Chris Godwin coming out.
Oh, that's good. I like that.
See, Chris Godwin was 6'1" and change, 209 pounds at the combine, ran 4.42, had a wingspan of 77, had vertical of 36, broad over 10 foot, and a 4-flat shuttle. I could see Wingo being testing in those areas. That could be somewhat similar frames if you look at a picture of Chris Godwin.
I like that. I like the guy one. I like that Josh Gordon one. I like that too. That's good. Those are good comparisons, guys. Thank you for that. Appreciate y'all participation in the super chat. All right, getting back to the questions here. We'll try to answer as many of them as we can, so I'm trying to go through these kind of rapid fire. Doug got a couple of these. Says, good evening, gentlemen. From the practices you've seen and information you receive, who's ahead, offense or defense? I guess he wants to know. That's a good question. Early on, usually, it should be the defense considering all the new pieces on offense. But what are you guys' thoughts? Did you see one side sharper than the other one?
I think until the full pads come on, I'm going to reserve anything on that because until full pads come on, it's hard to judge. Defensive guys, defensive line. This is a huge week for the defensive linemen. The full pads are on. And that's what Sark said at his press conference. So I'm kind of I'll reserve judgment on that until we start hearing about this week because it's a different game with full pads on.
Yeah, the thing I was going to bring back up from the spring, maybe I was a little surprised that I didn't hear as much about it, but I wanted to hear going into the spring that the offense was just running all through the defense, right? Jaden Blue, CJ Baxter, Trey Wisner, that entire offensive line returning for the most part. You have a lot of turnover on the defensive side of the ball, and that wasn't really the case. And I think we saw that in the spring game as well, and kind of the limited action we saw from the top-end guys. There weren't as open of running lanes as you would have anticipated given the circumstances on both sides of the ball. If that's the case again, this fall camp, I think that bodes much more in favor of the defense than maybe a worrisome about the offense because we've seen what that core collective group can do in the running game from a year ago. It's more positive in my eyes that the defense is playing sound, fundamental gaps, assignment football right now.
Yeah, no, good stuff. And I remember those spring reports. And what stood out to me was essentially Sark said that the defense would win more than their fair share in between the 20s, and then implied basically that the offense would win more than their fair share in the red zone when it was scoring time, which makes me think that Sark's got some new wrinkles in the red zone that he's using. Because I think that this defense, think about it, these are veteran defensive players, and they know Sark's offense now. And Sark's doing basic install. And I remember when Greg Davis doing basic install on Twitter. I'm like, man, we about to rip them to shreds because I know all the Greg Davis stuff. I know all the plays y'all run. I'm a junior now. I've been here forever, going against the same staff. And I think that's why the defense probably they were ahead of the game in between the 20s. But I bet Sark's got some new stuff, some new little, innovative things he's been working on because they struggled in the red zone. So I think he emphasized that in the offseason. I think that's why they were winning in the red zone. I could be off. That's what I gathered from it. We'll see what the practice reports are saying. But getting to your point, Jerry, about putting the pads on, I was looking at, Texas schedule and the players obviously the teams they play in the matchups things. Texas has a favorable schedule in the SEC. It's a very favorable schedule. But in terms of the lines of scrimmage, the challenges and the challenges that are and the problems that are going to be presented to them via lines of scrimmage, offense and defense, it's going to be quite a test. Let's go look at for the offensive line, right? They're going to play pretty much the 4 best D tackles or 4 of the 7 best D tackles in the country. 2 of them on the same damn team, by the way.
Yep.
Mason Graham and Kenneth Grant. That's why that Michigan game is going to be a hell of a test. Deion Walker from Kentucky is a guy that's projecting to be a first-round pick potential.
Best-looking guy at SEC Media Days physically, bar none. Not even close.
Yeah. And then some people are saying that Shamar Turner from A&M, in terms of the versatility, that he's a really good interior defensive lineman in terms of a guy that wreaks a lot of havoc. And then you go look at the edges. Georgia's got Mikael Williams. Some people saying that guy's going to project to be a top 10 pick. A&M's got Nick Scourton, who's one of the better edges in the country. Landon Jackson, actually, from Arkansas, is one of the better edges in the country. You're going to be tested. Now, I think Michigan will probably be the biggest test, and Michigan and Georgia will probably be your biggest test. But we know, I'm not going to bring up, none of these guys are in the Ndamukong Suh. But one good D tackle having a really good game can wreck a game plan. And we know that. We've experienced this as Longhorn fans because right there at the point of attack. And by the way, we've watched it because we watched T'Vondre Sweat and Byron Murphy do it to other teams all last season and wreak havoc. So the O-line better be ready, specifically the interior line. I think the edges are going to be just fine because we've seen Kelvin Banks just show up as a freshman against the very best first-round pick at the first-round pick. But the interior of the O-line, I don't know if they've ever been tested this much since Sark has been there.
Well, yeah, I agree. I agree with that. Not on a schedule like this. The Big 12 just didn't have those type of guys in depth at all. That's why I think the Michigan game is going to be so telling for Texas. I think Texas fans are going to know exactly where this team sits in the Michigan game. And the reason I say that is everybody's pointing at defensive tackle. What are they going to do? Because Michigan's going to try to run it, condense the game, RPO it enough, right? But I think this is just as important. The right side of the offensive line is going to be tested against Michigan in pass pro. And they have to hold up because, Rod, they're going to go at Cam Williams and DJ Campbell.
Yep.
And they're not going to go at Banks and Hayden Connor as much.
Yep.
They're going to test DJ Campbell and Cam Williams.
Yep. Games
too. Cam Williams' 3rd start ever. Second, and DJ Campbell's still a young guy. You're going to know on your defensive front against that Michigan offensive line, even though they lost starters, they have experienced guys coming back behind all those starters. That power run game, that physicality, and then on the Texas right side of the offensive line, how do they hold up in pass protection? They'll be fine in the run game. How do they hold up in pass pro? Yeah, you're going to know where Texas is after that game.
I know that's why that Michigan game is going to be your true line of scrimmage test before you go into the SEC. Because you'll also learn about the Texas defensive, the interior defensive fronts, and if they're going to hold up versus a power running game, because that's what Michigan's going to represent. And we love those D tackles. They got bodies, but we don't necessarily know how they're going to work together and if they're going to be effective yet. They have the pieces. We don't know. Michigan will put that to the test. Totally agree with that. All right. Also, Doug wanted to know, besides injuries, what makes you scared and concerned about this football team? Stuff that would keep Sark up at night. I think we just kind of went through it. Lines of scrimmage is going to be part of it. I would say ultimately for me that the pass defense has not improved and the red zone has not improved. If those things did not improve over the offseason, that will come back to haunt Texas and they will lose multiple games because of it.
Can I add one thing? It's not been talked about at all, really, in terms of my conversations with, here on Texas Football and some guys outside of, the streaming stuff. Is ball security an issue? I know not necessarily for Quinn, but we saw both Baxter and Blue lose a fumble in the Washington game. We saw that Blue was a little loose with the ball against Wyoming. He was put in the doghouse for a few weeks before, really having to jump into a larger role after Jonathan Brooks went down. That might be one of the areas in which early on, I don't think it would surprise me against a physical team like Michigan and a physical team like UTSA to see a ball or two on the ground from the running back room. That's one area, maybe not concerned, but I'm monitoring right now in terms of passes out of the backfield as well. How sure-handed are you with this running back group, but also just ball security in general?
I think if there's looseness with the ball, if somebody just makes a play and puts a helmet on the ball, nothing you can really do about that in the flow of a game, right? But is anybody carrying it like a loaf of bread next year in the month in Ann Arbor, then there's a good chance you lose that ball. Now, if Will Johnson just flies up and puts his helmet on a ball and pops it out, that's part of the game, right? But to CJ's point, if there's looseness with the football, then it can cost you that game up there. There's no doubt.
CJ,
you may not get as many possessions in that game.
CJ, this stat will back up your paranoia, I guess. Here it says that 4 Longhorns had multiple fumbles, even without, if you take away Ewer's fumbles, the fumble rate more than triple the SEC average.
Not good.
Of the Longhorns' 16 fumbles, 9 were recovered by opponents, which ranked in the back third of college offenses. So, and in some of your big games, fumbles. So,
yeah. Look at your 2 losses. You had a fumble by Quinn at the 50. You had a fumble 2 in Washington, 1 in their own red zone, 1 in your own red zone. So, it changes the game. It's not good. So, and the other thing is obviously turnover luck is, that's another conversation. Rod, you just mentioned, when those balls don't bounce your way, well, we just saw the repercussions of when you do lose out on a possession like that.
Yeah, no, it's a good point, CJ. You're right about that. I'm knocking on wood because I hope your observation does not come to fruition there. E. Kim, thanks for the question. Says, Jerry and CJ, what position groups are strong in Texas for the 2026 class? Time to talk some recruiting.
Ooh. Offensive line's always strong in Texas. I can't remember the last down year. I don't think wide receiver will be as strong at the top, but I think there's going to be good. Look, I think the depth in this state's good everywhere right now. The population's grown. I just think there's great depth in Texas this year. Top heavy, maybe not. Quarterback, maybe not.
Texas has a guy.
Yeah, Texas has her. Maybe not there. Running back was tremendous in 26, either top and depth. One of the best years in a while at running back. So that's what I would look at. Tight end too early to make a call on that.
Defensive line too early too. Would you think?
D-line is not good on the surface right now. That's going to be tough. I mean, 2 guys right now that Texas has offered, and would they even take both guys right now? They probably would, but that's going to need some depth to pop during the season. I really believe that. Offensive line's really good again in Texas in 26.
Good deal.
All right, good stuff there, guys. Getting back to it here, Jedi Master Bevo's got a question. It says, Rod, the question is, when you were at practice, can Phil Simi live up to the expectations of wearing number 21? And listen, I don't know what's going on. Maybe number 21 is a little cursed after me. I have no idea because guys actually haven't had a lot of good luck wearing 21. Jay Witt was wearing it for a while. What was the receiver? Troy Meary wore it and got hurt. I don't know what's going on with 21. So I would say that it used to be considered a really cool number. That's when I was wearing it. I still have, in my opinion, I still have the title of being the greatest number 21 in Texas football history. I don't want that to be the case. I'd love for somebody like Phil Simi to end up being the greatest number 21. That means he at least, surpassed what I did. But right now, I think guys switch numbers too much too. So he's going to be 21 now, but he's going to want single digit when he gets to be a starter. I guarantee if Phil Simi changing numbers. Y'all want to make me a bet? Like everybody changed. There's no pride in numbers anymore. That's an old school thing. Nobody cares about the numbers. I know I'm ranting like an old man. But thank you very much, Jedi Master Bevo. How about this one? Jerry, Victor says percentage chances of going 2 for 2 this week with Lockett and Sanders. What a chance.
Oh man. I think Texas is trending well for Lockett. DJ Sanders, I can't guess on that one, man. That one is, it's just, and something may come out as he gets closer to August 8th. He's announcing August 8th at some point. Something may come out a little closer than that we deem credible, but that's just a different recruitment because he doesn't communicate with colleges as much. He's very much in his own lane. So I think the colleges have kind of been sitting back saying a lot of times those guys have a really good idea. I don't think they have a really good idea and haven't for a while on DJ Sanders. So that one's a tough one to call right now. Let's see if anything happens by Tuesday.
Okay.
Because he announces on the 8th, Lockett's on the 7th.
All right, like that. Jarrell needs to know about Sadir Mitchell. Dude needs to man up. Like you said, where is Sadir Mitchell? I know one of the good reports that you guys had in your practice reports was that Alex January looked like he may be a contributor this year,
yes,
in some way, form, or fashion. That's good because anytime you get a freshman and contribute, especially on the line, that means that guy's he's ahead of the game. What are your thoughts, CJ? I'll throw it to you. What about Sadir Mitchell? I mean, is he going to be a guy that's heavily in the rotation at D tackle this year, or do they need him even to be heavily in the rotation at D tackle this year?
I think you would certainly like it if he was, right? To have that size, that mass in the middle. Obviously, I thought he had a solid spring game, so he closed out that portion of the offseason in, I would say, positive regards there. The thing with Sadir, he's listed at 350. Is he actually 350? I don't think he's 350. I think he's north of that a good bit. But is he able to play at that weight? Because it's one thing to be at that weight. It's another, kind of thing to have success and to move well at that level. And we saw that obviously with T'Vondre Sweat, to replicate and have someone else, in that same kind of, body frame and look and size at that point. I don't know. I'd like to see it in action. So tomorrow, I guess I'll have a better understanding of what he's looking like in terms of movement, but I'd like to see him slim down to 350, 345, just to get that extra weight off of his shoulder so he can still move a little bit better.
Yeah, appreciate that. UT boy back in. I appreciate the super chat, UT boy. This is for me. Number 21 is still cool, Roderick. I appreciate that. It's not. You're right. It's still cool. It's not as cool as it used to. It used to be like one of them elite. Everybody wanted that number 21 back in the day. But now, I think the single digits is it, and I'll admit that. I tried to get a single digit when I first got to Texas. Chip, the equipment guy, wouldn't give me a single digit. He said I hadn't earned it. I wanted number 2. I wanted the deuce. I wanted Deion's college number, man.
Yeah.
But he said, I believe Tim Brewster, still recruiting when I was on campus, said, you don't want number 2, man. Who, by the way, promised me number 2. Said, you don't want number 2. You want 21. You're going to be what Deion's already is. That's what you're going to be. You don't want to be Deion in college. You want to be Deion in the league. That's what everybody knows. And he convinced me once again, like he did in recruiting, to wear number 21. So thank Tim Brewster. Getting back to it here. Ryan says, hey, Rod, how much development is involved with corners? Do you believe that talented corners generally play early? How much improvement can really be developed in a corner? I do think talented corners play early. It depends on the system. I think when you're prioritizing coverage, I think coverage is innate. I think coverage specialist is something that you have to recruit, because I don't know if you can develop a coverage specialist. I think you bring those guys in already, and those are guys you probably have the foot speed that you prioritize and covet, have some of those natural traits. So I think when you go look at Texas, there are exceptions to every rule, but most of the time when Texas got a really good corner, a cover corner in there, he plays early. I look at Malik Muhammad, throw him out there, they play early. I mean, I started as a sophomore. If you're considered an elite coverage specialist, that will propel you forward in the competition, because ultimately that's where you'll shine in one-on-ones. You'll shine in team. You'll shine everywhere if you're just an elite coverage specialist. And I think everything else can be taught to you in terms of the game. So, now because you didn't have that with, Gavin Holmes wasn't a coverage specialist, and neither was Terrence. Terrence Brooks wasn't a coverage specialist necessarily, right? So you can be, and by the way, you can be a talented defensive back and not be a coverage specialist. Guys in the NFL right now playing on Sundays, they're not a coverage specialist, but there are other things they bring to the table as really good football players. But at corner, I think you want a guy that can just flat out cover. You don't want that to be something that's a liability in a skill set at corner. And I think that's why your young corners, because it's something that is innate, and something that comes more naturally than being developed by coaches, I think those guys play early. And I said there are exceptions, but I can't think of many. There's some at Texas, but most of the time, those young guys play. They throw them out there.
Rod, this leads right into this. Have you heard anything about Santana Wilson? Looked great physically last week. He looks like he belongs. Yeah. I've been of the opinion, Rod, if he had been in for spring practice, I think he'd have been pushing for that fourth corner spot. Mm-hmm. I think this missing spring practice makes it a little tougher now because so many of those guys do come in the spring and get a leg up. That's the biggest difference for me nowadays.
Totally agree with you. And like I said, I don't know what reason he didn't come in. He probably just wanted to enjoy his high school experience, something like that, or had some other sports he was committed to. But that guy can cover. And he's been studying the art of being a coverage defender and a coverage specialist since I don't know how long, because his dad is an NFL defensive, or was an NFL defensive back. So I talked to him about different techniques at the line of scrimmage, and he prides himself on being a press coverage specialist. So the coaches are recruiting more of those guys. And I think the younger crop of DBs, corners, there won't be any of them that aren't capable coverage specialists.
All right, Rod, talk about this, because I think there's a big distinction to make too for the conversation. Guys that actually play corner in high school versus guys that you're projecting the corner coming out of high school. So like Manny Muhammad played corner at South Oak Cliff. Santana Wilson's played corner for years.
Yep.
Then there's a lot of guys that you're projecting as corners. Talk about the difference there, because there is a difference.
Oh, yeah. It goes back to one of the items is what I just talked about. You know, have guys been studying the position, the different techniques with the position, how the nuances of the position. I know Malik Muhammad, as you can listen to him talk about playing corner, and he talks about, I remember the thing that stood out to me listening to him. He said, when they asked him, hey, what do you have to improve on? He's like, I got to know what my help is. And the reason he wants to know where his help is so he can know leverage and what he can overemphasize and where he can take chances. Can I undercut that route? Because do I got help over the top? Do I got help inside so I can break on any out route because I can be a little bit over aggressive there? That's thinking like a corner. Knowing why you haven't heard a lot of corners say, I need to know what my help is. You do. That's like one of the top 3 things as a corner, to know exactly where your help is. So some guys have been studying the position for a long time. And they've become almost executives in terms of their knowledge of the cornerback position. And I think Malik Muhammad says he's been playing cornerback. I want to say he said for like 7 years, like already.
Yeah.
Like, it's 7 years. Think about it. He's young. He's a sophomore. He's been playing corner for 7 years. So going back to his middle school days, he's been playing the cornerback position. And I think it does help. I think it in terms of you.
When did you start playing corner, Rod?
I started playing corner because I played linebacker actually in middle school.
I can see that. Totally see that.
Yeah, my freshman year in high school, I started playing corner.
Okay.
Freshman year in high school. So he had already been playing corner by the time my sophomore year. I was going on my 6th year playing corner. So think about it. He had been playing 2 more years longer than I had at corner by the time we got to be sophomore. So that's advanced to me, and I think it helps you in terms of your rate of development as a corner. The other guys, they got to learn. They got to go back to cornerback 101. You got to teach them all that stuff when they're just great athletes. Some guys may be prodigies, but still they have to learn that. I think the guys who come in playing corner at any position, really, they are ahead of the game in terms of the athletes who are transitioning into that position. Good stuff there. All right. I know we're getting close to the end of things here. So let me thank our sponsor of the night, one of our sponsors, Flat Creek Estates. We appreciate them. Did you know that the most awarded wine in Texas, folks, is actually the vineyard closest to Austin, Texas? That's right. Flat Creek Estate Winery is just minutes from downtown Austin, and they won award after award this year for their vintage wine, Super Texan. Super Texan is now available at your local Specs, so give it a try, or you can check it out at Central Market. I know this because my wife shops at Central Market, and she was really excited when she saw her favorite wine selection of Flat Creek there at Central Market, and they have the Super Texan too, which is also her favorite wine. So go check it out for yourself. Also, Flat Creek is a gorgeous venue with barbecues and wine tastings every single weekend, perfect for a date with your significant other or a getaway weekend with your significant other. Go check it out, flatcreekestate.com. That's flatcreekestate.com. And they have a great selection of wines, but also it is an amazing venue. I've been there myself, and wifey and I are going to try to get back out there because we need one of those getaways. Trust me on that, and Flat Creek is the perfect place for you. Thank you very much, Flat Creek Estate, for sponsoring the Sunday live stream.
Hey, Ron, we got one more for you. Okay,
Let's
I got
go.
one for you. David Keith Williams. Jerry, it was interesting hearing you mention Wardell Mack's been playing nickel. I always expected that to be his best position. He has the arms, physicality, quickness, match up with the slots. Talk about Rod. Is that the most difficult position to play in modern football, is nickelback in coverage? I mean, what does that say that Texas is working Wardell Mack out at nickel? What does that say for him as a prospect in their eyes?
It is. It's the toughest position to play in football today. I would say, and on defense. I think it's the toughest position to play because, first of all, the coverage wise, the two-way go. The sideline is your best friend when you're a cornerback because I got another coverage defender basically at the sideline. I can use them. When you don't have that, receivers have a two-way go. Then you got to decide what leverage are you going to try to take away, what leverage are you going to try to emphasize. Some DBs I know don't do anything. They play straight. They play head up when they cover, which is, to me, man, you talk about a Herculean task to try to just play some guy man up, just going off strictly your reaction, all right, and not taking one release away or one side away can be really tough. I think basically you're thrown in the multiverse, right? You got to be a coverage defender one snap. You got to play zone the next snap. You got to take on maybe a tight end or pulling a guard or an offensive lineman on one snap in the run game. Be a force run defender. Next snap, you're blitzing through an interior gap, running a twist and stunt with an edge defender or a linebacker. You have to have a total, well-rounded, all-around skill set at nickelback these days because you're half the time you're a linebacker, the other half the time you're a coverage specialist, and the other half the time they want you to drop back in zone and play safety. You got to be basically three positions in one. So in my opinion, I played it in the dark ages. I played it when we still had to go against Nebraska running the triple option. And trust me, that was hell. And then we had to, switch it up and go up against an air raid offense against Texas Tech and against Oklahoma. But now it's all spread concepts. And every now and then you have to obviously be a force run defender too. So I just don't think I go look at the lineage. This is the thing. And we can end it on this point. Go look at the lineage of the nickel position at Texas. I would say 85% of them end up playing in the NFL since 1999.
Wow.
Go look at every guy that's played the nickel position since I played in 1999. Go look at every nickel since then. And I want to say like 85% of them play in the league, whether drafted or undrafted free agent. They got because it takes an NFL skill set to play it. You ain't got an NFL skill set, you can't play that position.
So that's a strong sign for Wardell Mack early on.
Yes, it is. Amen, brother. Good stuff. All right, we're gonna end it there. Sorry, guys, I couldn't get to all the questions. I know you guys have some great questions. Promise you, throw them out tomorrow because we'll have coffee and football tomorrow starting at 8 a.m. So if you got those for Jerry and Bobby, you can throw them out there. We'll have the winning drive tomorrow. Matter of fact, I believe. You know what? We'll have the winning drive tomorrow. I'll drop that. I think we got an announcement coming about the winning drive, but I won't reveal that now because maybe I'm not supposed to. But that'll be coming up tomorrow, so you don't want to miss the winning drive. So throw your questions out there for me or for Jerry Den. Thank you to our sponsors. Thank you to South Point. Thank you to Flat Creek Estate Winery. Thank you very much to Jerry Hamilton, the man. Thank you, CJ Vogel, for all your nuggets as well. Matthew behind the scenes is the real MVP, ladies and gentlemen. None of this will be possible without him. Thank you guys for all your super chats. Really appreciate you helping us build this on Texas football community. Please come back tomorrow with the questions because anytime I don't answer questions, I feel guilty. I go to bed feeling guilty. All right, that we didn't get to all the questions. So please bring them back tomorrow, guys. Thank you guys for your participation. And until next time, hook 'em horns.